Hey guys, Q-Bund here. I was just watching a YouTube video before. It was a Nutnfancy video, and he's a bit sort of hit and miss with some things, I think. I think he likes running around playing soldier a bit too much. But, and he just sort of, I don't know, runs through every technical little bit of gear, and his idea of sort of wilderness survival is a bit different from most people's. But anyway, he did a video and it sort of made me a little bit, not grumpy per se, but it was about, it was like, I think it was entitled like, is an axe the best survival tool? And he had some like off the shelf like Fiskars thing, it looked like shit, and just like a big, you know, polycarbonate handle and like one of those weird, I think if you've seen them you'll know the sort of axe heads, they're odd, it's like Gerber steel, so it's some weird, they don't tell you what it is, your guess is as good as mine sort of thing. And it was huge as well. It was like a full-on like felling axe, and I doubt it was sharp. And he just starts going hammer and tongs at this bloody great tree that had fallen over. And he's like, "Oh look, I'm all tired and rah." It's not how it should be. Like if he didn't really have much technique either. Like, I've done quite a lot of work with axes, like as well as like part of my degree that I was doing at uni was forestry as well. So you have to learn how to do these things properly. But I always keep a sharp axe. This is a Weddling's, it's the large hunting axe. It doesn't weigh heaps. It's not too long, like that's what, 8, 16, so like 18, 19 inches from the top to the bottom, which is pretty easy to like find a spot in your pack. Like there's very few bags that aren't big enough to fit something like this, and even if it was like, you know, on an angle in the back, or like hooked on the outside, which I usually do, I just sit it in one of the, if I take it in my little hiking bag, I'll slip it down in the one of the sides, because it's got two like the elasticated bits for holding drink bottles. So one side will hold that, and there's an elastic loop at the top. I think for ice axes or something. I'll just cinch down on the top of the handle, and it was away laughing. But needs to have a sharpen and the weatherproofing, because I used this on the hike I went on last week, and it's pretty sharp. Like it's not a shaving sharp, but it's pretty sharp. There's a few hunks I've taken out of it from you know, the odd hit and a miss or whatever, and you clip a rock, which is bloody annoying. But you know, it's a sharp axe makes a massive difference over something that's, you know, just basically blunt. Like there's no other way to put it. Like if your axe should be nearly as sharp as your knife, I think. Like it's convex edge though, so that means when you're sharpening it, instead of just going like on a knife when you're doing it, you're kind of going straight on an angle. On an axe, I like roll it like that, and it convexes it, so it starts off like flat on the front, and then it like angles it, so it kind of rolls it. That's a bit exaggerated, but like you should be able to get a little bit of a rolling motion in there, and it'll convex the edge. So there's a bit more supporting metal behind the actual cutting edge. Because the other thing Nutnfancy was goes on about these fucking huge like wilderness knives. One, they usually cost an arm and a leg. You'll pick like a EC Junglis or a RTAC 2 or something. They also weigh a ton. They probably weigh more than the axe, if not the same. Well, same if not more, because they're huge. Like big hunks of like 1/4 inch thick steel, which is overkill as well. And then also the other good thing I like about an axe though is where it excels. It's going to cut wood better than one of those big knives. You can cut a carcass with one. You can use the back of it as a hammer really easily, especially with the sheath like this on the Weddlings. I'm not sure about Grance's Brooks, I think they're the same, but because on some axe sheaths they cover the whole head. When you're cutting, when you're hammering with the back end, you want the blade covered, because if you slip and you hit yourself in the face, this way it'll hurt. Just like you whack yourself in the face with your hand or something. If you didn't have that on, you could cut yourself pretty bad. So you want something like that. I really like this axe, I swear by it, sort of thing. But the hammer pole you use surprisingly often for driving stakes, breaking just general things like knocking something out of the way. Like you use it a lot. So I'd definitely recommend one of these. But it's just, you also need to be aware of axe safety as well. Oh, and there's less blade maintenance as well. Like there's only 4 inches of blade sort of thing to look after. Whereas on those big knives you've got, you know, some of them have like a, you know, coming up 10 and 12 inch like blade length. There's a lot of blade maintenance. Like all the knives we use at work, like in the butcher's knives, our steak knives are that size, and they're a bit of a prick to sharpen. Like, you know, it's hard to get a consistent length, or like a consistent stroke on the stone, like the whole length, including the tip. I usually end up having to do them in 2 parts, but that's with like a full bench stone. If you're doing it with one of the pocket stones you're carrying as well, then it's an extra problem, isn't it? But yeah, I just think that was a really unfair representation of axes that he did, because it's no way my experience. It will save you, and I think he said they're too heavy as well. They don't weigh that much. Like an axe this size is very, very acceptable. It's, I honestly can't tell you how much it is, but it's thick, it's good grade steel. This is like Swedish carbon steel. It's, the handle's not that heavy, it's just not, overall it's not that much of an extra weight to your pack, and it saves you, if you're in a wooded area, like which I'm in New Zealand, you go out into the woods and they're proper woods, like it's not, like there's a lot of wood out there, and it can get cold as well, like overnights, even during summer it can get pretty cold here. Like today was a beautiful day and it only sort of made it into the low 20 degrees Celsius, that's like maybe 70 Fahrenheit, and that's on like a pretty good day in spring. So I don't know, it depends on your environment as well a lot, but if you're going anywhere with wood, like you're definitely going to want an axe. Like I would rather carry this than all the extra food to make up the energy expenditure I'm going to be using to cut down bloody great trees with a knife. There's no way that in the space of a few days, or if you're looking long term even, that you're going to make up the calories with food that you can carry, that like in a week you'd be thanking me for having an actual small axe like this. I don't like hatchets as much because the handles are too short to get a good grip on with 2 hands, and also the thing with an axe, you got to remember that what you should be doing is you should be holding it with one hand and doing like a, I'm probably not going to get in frame here, but like a motion to see how far it's going to be reaching. Remember, if you miss with an axe this size and it comes straight down, you're probably going to wear yourself in the shin. That's why I do a lot of my cutting on my knees, because that way when you do the whole check first, it's going to hit the ground, and it should always hit the ground before it hits you. So that's just something to take into consideration as well. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on axes. Hopefully it gives you guys a little bit to think about, because I definitely like carrying one. But anyway, yeah, cheers guys.